Well, Coach Jay Johnson on the show right now talking about LSU Baseball. LSU Baseball is 11 days away. Coach, I appreciate you coming on. I know your time is very valuable. This is Jay Johnson Mondays. I appreciate you allowing us to use your knowledge of LSU Baseball for our show. So welcome.
You got it. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. Coach, let's get right into it. Season, like I mentioned, is 11 days away. You know, obviously you have a plan. You go from the fall to Christmas break to the spring, and now you're, a week and a half away from opening day. What have you seen in the scrimmages leading up to next weekend, right? Because obviously you have the fall, and everybody's trying to get their, they understand they have a long ways for the season, but now it's go time, right? You have next weekend is opening weekend. So what have you seen in the scrimmages leading up to that weekend?
Yeah, I think the work ethic of the players has been good. The focus level's good. We try to manage their time well with practice and manage their focus. And I got to give them high marks on that. I think talent obviously is good across the board. I really like what I see out of the pitching staff. I really like how we've played defense. We've put a lot of effort, obviously, into recruiting more pitching talent and effort in developing the defense. I would probably say the pitching and defense is ahead of the offense at this point.
That's normal, right? That's usually that's kind of normal in this stage of the season, you would think?
It is. If you have a chance to have a good team, that's the way it should be. If your hitters are destroying your own pitching, you're in trouble. Right. And so very happy that that's the case. And then, just like the effort level, like the focus. I think this team probably so far has done the best job of respecting what we need to do to get prepared. Like, I don't feel like they're obviously excited for opening day, but we haven't been looking past the day in front of us. And that self-discipline is something we're going to need in the season. So that's a good sign.
Coach, I'm glad you brought up the pitching staff. We all know, if you've played the sport, that the fall is a little different from, the spring. And obviously the spring season isn't actually here yet. But the feeling of everything should feel a little different once you show up back from the fall break. Is there any of these young arms right now who time in and time out as they, keep taking the mound that are kind of impressing you, that are maybe I wouldn't say you didn't see it before, but they just seem like they've taken that leaps and bounds each time they go out there compared to where they were in the fall?
I think that as a whole, the staff did a really good job of executing what they needed to do to be prepared to throw when they got back. And part of that is improvement based, and part of it's just flat out arm conditioning based. And I think they all hit their marks there. I mean, as far as names of new pitchers, everybody knows about Paul Skeens. He's not really young, but it's his first year at LSU. He's really hard to deal with from an offensive standpoint. Thatcher Hurd, same thing. Chase Shores has been really, really impressive, but he's been impressive since the first outing in the fall. So not really surprised by any of that. Christian Little's back and healthier than he was in the fall. So he's taken a step forward, which is great. So of the new guys, those are the ones that come to mind. And then got some good improvement from 4 returning pitchers that we're real excited about as well. So good start for the staff in this early spring here.
Obviously outside of the pitching staff, because obviously I think, last year going in, that was what everybody's like, oh, we need to start pitching. And the pitching staff now I feel like is maybe the strength of the team outside of, the top guys that you have in the lineup, right? Jay Mitch asked about, have you seen improvement from some of these young guys? My question is kind of similar, but it's around the whole team, right? When you're in the fall and you're a freshman and you're a young guy and you come in, you're getting adjusted to living on your own, school, baseball, competition. Then you go through Christmas break and you come back and you almost feel like you're almost like a sophomore now, right? You almost went through like a season, a half a season, and you come back. Have you seen these younger guys start to develop and get a little bit more comfortable in their own skin on the field around the guys on the team?
Yes, and that's just a credit to the leadership we have. I feel as good about the player leadership on this team at this point as I possibly could. And so, I mean, obviously we talk about Dylan all the time, as we should. He's done a terrific job, showing the way for a lot of the young position players. And obviously they respect him because of the type of player he is. They also respect how he goes about doing what he does. And that's a credit to him. So it's helped those guys settle in a little bit better. Now, there's a whole nother layer of that when the bullets start flying.
Right.
Can keep their poise on opening weekend when there's, 1,000, 11,000 people here. Like, we're trying to do some things to help them do that. So that'll be another layer of learning, going on the road for the first time. Like, you just can't know that until you actually do it. But as far as baseball improvement, absolutely. As far as maturity, absolutely. And the goal is to get those guys as close to sophomores at some point this season as we possibly can, because they're going to help. I mentioned Chase Shores. He's by far the most ready on the team to make a massive impact. But you look at Paxton Kling, Brady Neal, Jared Jones, Guidry, Ethan Fry has had a really good start to this thing. They all can help. It's just, getting adjusted to the biggest jump they're ever going to make in their career from one level to the next.
You mentioned y'all doing some things to help these guys with that transition, whether it be off the field or whatever. What are some of those things that y'all are doing or implementing to be able to help them make that transition easier?
Yeah, I think the winter break coming out of the fall, they have a very clear picture of this is who you are as a player right now. This is what you need to improve. This is what we need you to do to help the team win, and then give them the road to connect all of those things. The expectations are really, really clear. What happens is the game starts sometimes and they'll always revert back to what they know to this point in time. So that's why I've always felt like making your expectations to the player really, really clear are important. I think they're starting to see what they can do, but connecting the mental and physical piece of this thing, because right now the most important thing is going to be for those guys to learn how to slow the game down. So we do a lot of mental work, really locking in approach, really locking in, some of them do some, visualization to see themselves successful in these spots, and really just try to get them under control, because you can't control your performance until you control yourself. Right. So it's just these guys build self-control, and they'll get it, just like you. The more they play, the more comfortable they'll become.
Coach, we got a couple questions from you in the chat. This is not from me, but I do agree with what they're saying in terms of how you've been able to manage yourself at press conferences. It feels like you've gotten very comfortable. You already were when you got here, but they wanted to say, and this is from, hold on, let me get the name. This is from Kirk Landreneau. When did you become such an awesome speaker at the press conferences, and how easily was it for you to ingrain kind of yourself into the culture of LSU, and how easily how much easier is it for you to be comfortable now after year one?
Yeah, it's definitely better, and that's just me being honest. I jumped into this thing with both feet, but building your program and building a program, there's steps you have to go through. There's a reason that no first-year coach has ever won the national championship. We finished second at Arizona my first year, and that was something that has left a sour taste in my mouth, because I would have been one of one. But that first year, man, you have to build. And we had good results last year. I'm proud of that team, but there's a building process that if you're outside the building, if you're outside the program that's taking place that you don't know about, but that's how I get peace of mind in doing my job, is knowing we're doing the things necessary to build the program. As far as being here, I've loved it here since day one. The alums like you guys, the fans, the school, everything has been super supportive of what we're doing here, and they love their Tigers, and it makes it the best place in America to coach. As far as all the other stuff, man, I'm just myself doing our deal, and want to make all you guys super proud of not just what we're doing, but how we're doing it. And so I don't even know really how to comment on that, but we love it here, and there's nowhere else I'd rather be. So we're just going to try to keep doing it better and better every year.
Not even the Yankees. You said that. Not even the Yankees.
Well, it's the Yankees of college baseball.
Nope.
That's right.
It is.
But we had Josh Jordan on Hold the Rope yesterday, where obviously Skip Bertman, I'm sure you've bended his ear a little bit, but he said that y'all, for the scrimmage, had more people at the scrimmages this weekend than he saw at Duke's opening day. Do you feel a little bit of that pressure, or at least with what you've done through the transfer portal, how you've built the team, and it feels like it's Omaha or bust at this point?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot, and it's like I just have two answers. Like, I mean, people could say you suck and you're not getting good enough players, and that's
not the case.
That's battle for. But like, hey man, like, there's two things going on. We're trying to build a program, so all of that is just validation that we have returning players that can have success and have had some success, and we've improved the talent level. So that should show future players we have a plan and we're executing our plan. So it helps recruiting, it helps build the program. As far as like the expectations for the now and living up to them and all of that stuff, like, I'm not worried about what anybody says or thinks. Like, we're trying to run towards and start the fight with everybody. And that's how we're going to do it. I use an analogy of, SEC baseball is like a burning house. Well, if you're going to save the house, you better get in there, get all the people out of it, get your hose out, and start putting fires out right and left. And you can't do that with any fear or worry or any of that stuff. So, again, if you're inside the building, you know how the guys work, you know the plan that we have, the attention to detail of the staff. That's where you put your peace of mind. In baseball, the only thing you can really control is the preparation and your effort towards executing, and those are going to be supremely high. And if you do that with talented players, then you can play with peace of mind and you're not really worried about any of that external stuff.
Coach, Lloyd kind of touched on it a little bit. Obviously, you went into the portal, you brought in an extremely talented team. Some may say the most talented team in the country. I'm one of those people. Obviously, expectations are always going to be here at LSU. But throughout the fall and throughout the spring before the season starts, guys start to get developed and they start to play. Have they started to, I guess this would be a twofold question. Have you seen players start to separate themselves from some other guys and say, you know what, I'm going to, this guy's definitely a star outside of the Dylan Cruzes and all those other guys? Competition makes a team better. Have guys separated themselves, or have they made the decision harder on you? And the second part of that question is, in baseball, numbers don't really tell you the whole story. Obviously, you can look at the lineup and you can see, he's hitting 350, but it could be a soft 350. This guy's hitting 150, but he's hitting balls hard. What goes into the decisions on how to make your lineups and make your opening day roster, right? Do you look into analytics? Do you look into, or do you just put it all together? It's a long question, I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's media 101, Mikey.
I love it. I mean, this is like one of my favorite parts about the job is like, first thing is there's definitely peace of mind, and you guys know this as players, when you can say, hey, this is your role. Go do it. Yep. Like that.
Oh, no. Oh, he's getting a phone call, no doubt.
That's the case, that I can do that. Like Dylan is playing all the time. Right. Trey is playing. Tommy White is playing. Jordan Thompson is playing. Like, that's like it's ride or die with those guys. And there's other guys on our team that are good enough that you could put them in that category. However, like, there's more guys than spots. And I don't want to undermine all the talent that we have with those other guys and shut the door on what's possible. So you may see it a little different, and it's not because we're tinkering. It's not we're trying to figure it out. We can use more guys than 9 to put together the right team or recipe for that game that day. And then it might look a little different the next day. All of that decision making is very well thought out. I spend a lot of time on that. I've had guys I've coached with that said nobody kills more trees than you because you got no everywhere I line up.
What happened to the whiteboard?
Yeah, it's right over here. Yeah, it's really exciting to do that with this group of personnel. Now, the question is, like, are guys starting to separate themselves? I'm starting to feel like I'm getting a little better idea of how to start it out in certain situations with where the pitching staff's going, where certain guys may fit a sweet spot of they are going to do really well in this role against this type of pitcher with this type of pitcher pitching. We may want a defender at a certain spot.
Right.
And how to use pinch hitters and all of that. I definitely have a lot more of a clear picture today after this last weekend than I did a week ago. And I expect that to be even better next week. And what I'll do is next Sunday night and Monday, I'll meet with every player on the team and just like, hey, this is where we're at today of how we're going to start out. And these are the things that you need to be prepared for. And there's a little more ambiguity with that with this team than maybe past teams, just because there's more than one guy that can get the job done at most spots, and that's a good thing for us.
So, Coach, I mean, with so much depth on the roster, pitching-wise and position player-wise, and honestly, with today's day and age with the portal and all, how is it that you manage the expectations of young guys and or incoming first-year guys about their playing time or playing situation as things are starting to unfold right now?
Good question. First off, before I answer that, congratulations on getting married.
Hey, there we go.
There's probably parts broken all over.
No doubt.
No, man, I put my jersey in the rafters a while back. It's been over for a while.
There you go.
Except for the rest of us.
Appreciate that, though. Really.
No problem. I think the simple answer is just communicating, number one. Like I said, I'll have a meeting with every player. I think number two, what we really tried to identify is what does this team need to do to be successful? We really believe we need to have a strong mindset. That means 3 or 4 different things. We really are hammering home the concept of being selfless. And what I did is I looked back at the national championship teams at LSU. Like, there's really good examples of guys being selfless and accepting and embracing their role on those teams that propelled, in your guys' team to the top. And so if it was good or okay for those teams to do, maybe that's something we need to emulate. And I think that so far so good. Now, we're not into the season where a guy hasn't played for 6 games in a row or pitched for 10 games in a row. And you don't know until that happens. But I do feel really good about the leadership. I feel good about their understanding of the things that we need to do to be successful. And this concept of being selfless or placing the needs of the team above your individual needs is really good right now. And I think that they get it and they understand it. And I also think that they know we have a plan for all of them, and some guys, like, this is their time. Right. Some guys, it'll be their time, 15 games into the season. Some guys, it may be the end of the season. Some guys, it might be 2024. But I like the roster, and I like every player on the roster. And they know we have a plan for them. We communicate that plan. And they know how important it is to, kind of give of themselves for this to work. And so we're really just trying to help them and communicate and educate them on that. And so far, so good.
So as far as for you, like, with it being 11 days away, do you do anything different? Do you approach things in any kind of way different? Do you format maybe the practices different? Is there anything that you do different from a coaching standpoint to prepare these guys for what's about to come as opposed to the fall and or when they first show up back in the spring? Now we're kind of down to the time where the season's literally right upon us. Is there anything that you do different in this time?
Yeah, I think until this next Sunday, it's like, quote unquote, spring training. Like, we have stuff we got to do to get ready. Like, we can't let off the gas pedal just yet at this point in time. So it's longer practice days, those types of things. We have to get stuff, put in. We get exposed every scrimmage and, really trying to hammer out stuff. Yeah, seriously. Like,
you're not a hitting guy at all. I can't tell at all.
I didn't leave the park super happy yesterday. I'm just gonna so today was
Wes Johnson's really in trouble already.
Oh yeah, that's the best. Hey, well, let me talk about that. Like, one part of me is ticked off at it's giving away some at bats. The other part of me is like skipping out of the parking lot here, going like 9 dudes deep of guys that look like they're going to pitch in the big leagues someday. And so Trust me, I'll take this all day, every day. But like we got after it today, so there's always stuff coming up that gets exposed that you have to go back to work on. So we're still like way in the meat of that. I think I really try to manage the workload versus where does the mental break need to happen so that we can be ready on game day. I mean, this weekend we're going to simulate next weekend. Like we're playing 9 innings each day at the exact time that we're going to play next weekend's series. And so they get used to kind of that internal clock, so we're more prepared. Then next week, a Wednesday practice will look probably similar throughout the year. Thursday, same type of thing, and try to get a rhythm so they can get comfortable understanding what the preparation is going to look like. But we're kind of still full speed ahead as far as training right now. So we'll shift probably a little bit next week.
And you mentioned earlier in this conversation that you don't want to say the word tinker, but we saw what happened last year. There's a lot of times whenever you kind of, I don't want to say micromanage, but you went up and tried to help your offense a little bit. How do you kind of, I guess, manage this lineup when you have so many good players on this team? Do you feel like it's not going to be the same week 1 as it will be in, month 3? So how are you approaching that? And do you feel like everybody has their roles defined at this point? Or is it going to be a kind of week-by-week basis?
Yeah, I think you're right in that it's not going to look the same. It's not going to look the same game 2 to game 1, to be honest with you. I mean, it could be a different type of pitcher that we're facing. It's going to be a day game versus a night game. All this stuff plays into it. I mentioned, 4 players that are probably they're going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're, and then there's a number of other guys that can make a contribution, and so it's just like pitching. Like what we had to do last year is we had to find the sweet spot for that pitcher to be able to maximize their contribution. It's like that with the position players this year. Defense over offense. At certain spots. Offense over defense at certain spots. This guy handles this type of pitcher well. This guy handles coming off the bench maybe a little bit better. And then you're going to see us use guys a lot. You're going to see games that we win that aren't outlandish scores where 14 or 15 guys get in the game. And I'm excited about that. Right. And I think by doing that, it's going to kind of show us where guys should go. And I think, pitching and defending at a high level will give us the flexibility to work through some of that. So the only reason I don't like the word tinker is because there's thought put into what we're doing. We're not just throwing it against the wall and trying to see if it works.
Right. Coach, I appreciate all of your time. Just a couple more questions. The SEC, I'm sure you've seen it and you know about it, but you probably known about it for a while. But the SEC came out today and said they're going to implement a 10-run mercy rule in conference play this year. I was just curious on your thoughts. I have my own thoughts about the situation. What are your thoughts? I know off air we talked about, I think it takes away some at-bats from some of the younger guys in those types of games. What are your feelings on that?
Yeah, I don't love it. Just because, I want to play. And if 10 at any school in the conference, and I'm telling you, like, I'm really excited about this year, but there's some really good young players here that may not be at the forefront of this thing, but that are going to be really, really good. Like, there's some answers to replacing guys as they leave us that are right here, right now, and you love getting those guys in as much as you can. Right. So
yeah, we spoke about that in your office too, right? Like, when I was a freshman, that's kind of how I got some experience early on, because we were beating teams by 10, 11, 12 runs, and I was getting at bats that I wasn't going to get if we were in close games, and I feel like you probably feel the same way.
Yeah, no doubt. And, of course I'm the coach, but we're going to have to take a lot better at bats to beat anybody by 10 right now than we. So, I want to get guys in.
Yeah,
like, that's the bottom line. And, I'm sitting here talking about building team, and one of my roles in that is when I have an opportunity to do that, to get that going. And I take a lot of pride in that. We actually did it last year because we had some, separating scores and we're able to get some guys in the game. And, I hope that that's something that gets revisited, but I can't do anything about it. So I really don't think about it a whole lot.
Is what it is. Coach, I appreciate your time. We're looking forward to the season. We're looking forward to being out there. This is going to be my first year where I'm going to feel like I'm an actual season ticket holder. I'm going to go as many games as I can. So good luck.
Nice.
Looking forward to the next week and a half until next Friday. And I'm sure you'll see me in the box over here in the next couple days. Come watch some scrimmages.
He'll be in a suite.
No, there's no suites aren't open for the scrimmages, Lloyd.
We'll try to get in there for the scrimmages. We'll try to get in there for the scrimmages this week. Definitely.
Yeah. Coach, I appreciate it, man.
Good.
Yeah, enjoy your night.
All right, guys.